September 1st, 1939. German forces crossed the Polish border, beginning World War II in Europe. Germany quickly overruns Poland, Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France, leaving Britain to stand alone, until a surprise German assault on the Soviet Union penetrates to the gates of Moscow. The other side of the world sees increasing tension between Japan and the United States over Japanese aggression in China. Then, on December 7th, 1941, a Japanese surprise attack on Pearl Harbor shatters the U.S. Pacific Fleet and brings the United States into the war. It's now 1942, and you control the fate of nations.
The object of Axis and Allies is to capture two enemy capitals. The Allied players must capture the Japan and Germany areas. The Axis players must capture any two of the United Kingdom, Russia, and Eastern United States areas. The Axis players can also win an economic victory if they conquer enough territories. If at the end of a turn, the Axis players have a total income of at least 84 IPCs, they win, even if they haven't conquered two enemy capitals. The Axis begins with income of 57 IPCs, so they only need 27 more IPCs to win. The players always move in the following order. First, the USSR, then Germany, the United Kingdom, Japan, and the United States. Each turn, you go through the following steps, called the action sequence. Purchase new units, move, resolve combat, non-combat move, place new units, and collect income. In the purchase units part of the action sequence, you spend your IPCs to buy new infantry, tanks, ships, planes, and guns. The cost of each unit is above its icon. You can buy as many units as you can afford. Just highlight an icon and then press button 1. Move your controller up and down to choose the number of units to buy and press button 1 again when you're done. To go on to the next part of the action sequence, select the Done button. So, how do you know what to buy? You have to weigh the advantages and disadvantages of each unit and how they fit into your strategy. Movement is the second part of the action sequence. Unlike chess or checkers where you move only a single piece, in Axis and Allies you can move all of your units each turn. The type of unit determines how far you can move it.
Land units, infantry, armor, and anti-aircraft guns normally have to stay on land areas. You can move them into sea areas if you have empty transports there to carry them. But they can't do both land and sea moves on the same turn.
Ships, transports, submarines, aircraft carriers, and battleships have to stay in sea areas. Ships and land units can move into, but not through, enemy-controlled areas. If there are enemy units there, and there usually are, you fight a combat there in the next part of the action sequence.
Airplanes, fighters and bombers, can move over both land and sea areas. They can also fly through enemy territory, but any anti-aircraft guns in those areas can fire at them as they move. Airplanes that move into combat have to return to a friendly area after combat. You need to save some of the airplane's movement so it can return to base during non-combat movement. You can't make kamikaze or suicide attacks.
To make your moves, highlight the map area containing the units you want to move. Then, push button 1 to select that area. The icon window shows the movable units there. Now, select the area where you want the units to go. The highlight jumps to the icon window. Just select the units that you want to move. Now, select the Commit button to complete the move, and transfer the chosen units from the starting area to the ending area. If any units have moves remaining when you hit the commit button, you can continue moving the force by selecting another ending area. Press button 2 if you want to stop the units where they are.
Remember, airplanes that move into combat need to save some moves so they can return to a friendly area after combat.
If you change your mind during a move, press button 2 to begin again. When you've completed all the moves that you want to make, press button 2 to highlight the icon window and select the Done button. Combat is the third part of the action sequence. You fight battles wherever you moved your units into enemy-occupied territory, those areas marked with the battle symbol. In each combat area, you and your enemies fire at each other until either you retreat or someone is wiped out. If you have units in more than one enemy area, you'll fight each battle one at a time. You can choose the order of combat areas yourself, or let your CDI player choose at random. To choose yourself, press button 2 to highlight the map window. Move to the combat area you want, and press button 1. Most of the time, the order that you resolve combats doesn't matter. In that case, it's easier to have your CDI player choose the next combat. Just select the Any button.
You always resolve naval combat before land combat. Naval combat involves the following steps. Attacker subs fire. Defender removes casualties. Both fire. Both remove casualties. Both subs withdraw. Attacker may retreat. Firing is automatic. Your CDI player shows you which units are firing and whether they miss or hit. For each enemy hit, you have to lose a unit. The icon window shows you the number of enemy hits. Select that many units and hit the Done button to continue the combat.
At the end of any combat round, the attacker can retreat. When you retreat, your forces move out of the enemy area and the combat there ends. The defender's forces can never retreat. They have to fight to the death. If you don't want to retreat, just select the Done button and combat continues. If you do want to retreat, press button 2 to highlight the map window. Then select an adjacent area that your attackers moved through. The highlight then jumps back to the icon window, where you can select the units to retreat. Select the Commit button to complete the retreat.
Except for airplanes, you have to retreat your entire force to the same area. Airplanes can use their remaining moves to land in any area that you controlled at the start of your turn.
When you win a naval combat, you can make an amphibious assault. Just move any infantry and armor loaded on your transports to any adjacent land area. Once you've hit the beach, you treat the amphibious assault like any other land combat, except you can't retreat. An amphibious assault is a fight to the death.
If you make an amphibious assault from an undefended sea area, your battleships can support the attack. Each battleship gets one shot at the defenders.
After you finish naval combat, you do land combat using these steps. Attacker makes strategic bombing raids. Both fire. Both remove casualties. Attacker may retreat.
Bombers can make strategic bombing raids. Strategic bombing is a special type of land combat. Instead of attacking your enemy's military forces, you attack their economy. To make strategic bombing raids, just move your bombers to enemy areas containing industrial complexes. At the beginning of combat, you have to decide how many bombers in that area should make strategic bombing raids. For each raiding bomber, your enemy loses up to 6 IPCs. But raiding bombers can't participate in normal combat that turn.
After strategic bombing, you fire and take casualties just like naval combat.
Non-combat movement is the fourth part of the action sequence. There are two parts to non-combat movement.
First, your airplanes that survived combat have to return to a friendly area. You can't use areas that you just captured. You have to use areas that you controlled at the beginning of your turn. Your planes can only use whatever moves remain from their pre-combat movement.
In the second part of non-combat movement, you can move any units that haven't already moved this turn.
You make non-combat moves the same way as regular moves, except that you can't move into neutral or enemy territory. In the Place New Units part of the action sequence, you deploy the units that you bought at the beginning of your turn. The icon window shows you your new units. The location of your industrial complexes determines where you can put them. Air and land units have to go in the same area as a complex. Naval units have to go in a sea area next to a complex. Complexes that you just captured don't count. You have to have controlled the complex since the beginning of your turn to place new units there. Industrial complexes that you begin with let you place an unlimited number of new units in the area. In areas with captured or newly built complexes, you can only place the same number of units as the area's IPC value. To place your new units, just select the area where you want them to go. The highlight jumps to the icon window, where you can select which units to place there. Use the Commit button to place them.
Sometimes you may not be able to place a unit. For example, if you buy a battleship but control no sea zones, you won't be able to place it. In these cases, you lose the unplaced units.
Select the Done button to continue on to the next part of the action sequence. Collecting income is the last part of the action sequence. You'll automatically receive IPCs for each land area you control. The exact amount varies from area to area. You'll use these IPCs to purchase units on your next turn, so the more you collect, the better. After you collect income, select the Done button to move on to the next player's turn. There are 10 types of units in Axis and Allies. Knowing which units are best for each task is an important part of your strategy. Each unit has an attack value, shown as a percentage. This tells you the chances of your units hitting an enemy during combat. As you can see, infantry misses most of the time, but battleships and bombers can be deadly. Anti-aircraft guns, transports, and industrial complexes can't attack. Each unit has a defense value, shown as a percentage. When enemy units attack you, your units have that chance to hit when returning fire. Most units have different attack and defense strength. For example, bombers are one of the best attacking units, but are very weak when defending. Anti-aircraft guns only defend during enemy movement. They don't participate in normal combat. And industrial complexes can't defend at all. The move value of a unit shows how many areas per turn it can move. The cost of a unit is the number of IPCs it takes to buy one unit of that type.
Infantry units are slow and make poor attackers, but they're adequate for defense. They're also the cheapest unit in the game, so you can usually buy a lot of them when quantity is more important than quality. Infantry can also use transports to move across sea areas and to make amphibious assaults. Armor units are more expensive than infantry, but move farther and are better attackers. You can also load them on transports and make amphibious assaults with them. Blitzing is a special move which only armor units can make. Normally, units that enter an enemy territory have to stop moving. But if an armor unit moves into an unoccupied enemy area, it can blitz through. The enemy area is captured and your armor units can keep moving. But remember, you can only blitz unoccupied areas. If enemy forces are there, you have to stop and fight. And you can't blitz a neutral area.
That wouldn't be nice now, would it? Anti-aircraft guns don't fight like other units. Instead, they shoot during enemy movement at airplanes that fly into their area. You have a 1 in 6 chance of destroying every plane that passes overhead. AA guns move normally and can be carried by transports, but there can never be more than 1 gun per area. AA guns are ignored during regular combat. They don't fire, and you can't take them as casualties. The combat winner captures any enemy AA gun in the area. Industrial complexes can't attack, defend, move, or be destroyed, and you can only have 1 per area. Areas containing complexes are the only areas where you can place units bought at the beginning of your turn. You can place any number of units at your beginning complexes. New complexes can only produce the same number of units as its area's IPC value. Whenever you capture an enemy area with an industrial complex, you captured a complex too. But you can't use it to place new units until your next turn. Fighters are good all-around units. They've got good range, reasonable attack strength, and are excellent on defense too. After you attack, your fighters have to move back to a friendly area. They only get 4 moves total, not 4 before combat and then 4 after. You can also land your fighters on friendly aircraft carriers. But you can't have more than 2 fighters per carrier. Bombers are moderately expensive and are poor defenders. But they're powerful when attacking and can move farther than any other unit, 6 land or sea areas per turn. After you attack, your bombers have to move back to a friendly land area. They only get 6 moves total, not 6 before combat and then 6 after. Bombers can make strategic bombing raids. Strategic bombing is a special type of land combat. Instead of attacking your enemy's military forces, you attack their economy. To make strategic bombing raids, just move your bombers to enemy areas containing industrial complexes. At the beginning of combat, you have to decide how many bombers in that area should make strategic bombing raids. For each raiding bomber, your enemy loses up to 6 IPCs. But raiding bombers can't participate in normal combat that turn.
Transports can attack and are poor on defense, but they're the only way to move your infantry, armor, and anti-aircraft guns across the seas. The transport can load its cargo before, during, or after its move, but has to stop moving immediately after unloading. You can take transports as combat losses, but if you do, you'll lose any cargo on board. Submarines have several special abilities. Attacking subs always fire first in combat and inflict casualties before the defender gets a chance to return fire. After any round of combat, attacking subs can retreat, whether or not the rest of the attacking force follows suit. Defending submarines can also retreat. They are the only defending units with this ability. Defending subs can retreat to any one adjacent friendly or unoccupied area. And normally you retreat either all or none of your attacking units, but you can retreat any number of your subs, as long as they all retreat to the same adjacent area. You retreat subs using the same procedure as normal retreats. Subs can never hit aircraft, but aircraft can hit subs. When subs face enemy planes in combat, they should use their special retreat ability to avoid being sunk. Aircraft carriers are expensive, and they're poor attackers, but they're good defenders, and they can carry 1 or 2 fighter planes for extra protection. The fighters treat the aircraft carrier like any normal land base. If you sink a carrier, Then at the end of combat, fighters on board have to land on a friendly island in the same area. If there's no place to land, the fighters are destroyed. Battleships are powerful, both on attack and defense, but they're the most expensive unit in the game. Battleships have special abilities during an amphibious assault. If they didn't fight during naval combat, they get a special one-time shot against the enemy you're assaulting.
Congratulations! You've made it through the game rules. Now you're ready to conquer your enemies and win World War II.
Collecting income is the last part of the action sequence. You'll automatically receive IPCs for each land area you control. The exact amount varies from area to area. You'll use these IPCs to purchase units on your next turn, so the more you collect, the better. After you collect income, select the Done button to move on to the next player's turn.
Whoop!